Hi everyone, welcome back to That's Mental. I'm here, I'm back. I have the gift of time, which is amazing. So I want to try and make more of this content for you. So here we go. Let's jump into today's topic, which is the physical impact of trauma. So in previous videos, I talked about the emotional impact of trauma. I've talked about what it is, trauma response, etc., all kinds of things. And today I want to talk about the physical aspect. Now, you might think, the obvious might come to mind when you think of the physical aspect of trauma. So, for example, you might think of physical abuse, violence, sexual assault, or you might also think of war veterans or car accidents, these types of things where there's an actual physical impact to the body resulting from an accident. However, it's way more than that. It's way more than what meets the eye, as it were. And this is what I want to dive into today, because often we don't have the awareness, and I think it's important that we learn more about it. Okay, so back to this physical impact of trauma. In my other videos, I talked about how the traumatic moment and what happens to you is a moment that gets hot wired into your brain, right? And through this hot wiring, you can get stuck in a loop and you can relive the experience again and again and again at different times, or perhaps all the time if it's really bad. And I also explained how you can acquire or develop a trauma response to certain situations because of this. I've also talked about how the fact that when you are constantly stuck in fight or flight mode, your stress response in your brain and in your body is constantly activated. And I've talked a little bit about how this can be really bad for you and how this impacts you physically as well, because you're constantly prepared to fight or flee. It's a difficult one to say. So if you think about the fact that with trauma, you're, constantly stuck in a loop, or this loop is hot-wired into your brain, into your body, then you can imagine that this hot wiring, this emotional response, this mental response is also having a negative impact on your body. For me, there are 3 different ways that you can be physically impacted by trauma, and I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. The first one is really straightforward, and that's just simple tension or pain that can be felt in your body. Let's go back to the example I used in my previous video, which is that your parents would shout at you whenever you enter the room. Whenever they entered the room. Either way, the moment somebody enters the room, they start shouting at you, right? In this case, the physical response is that you're going to start tensing up in anticipation of it happening, right? You're nervous, you know it's coming, you're scared, so you start this response. It's coupled with fear, the fear of something bad happening, and it's your reptilian brain reacting to the situation. I'm sure you can already imagine it now, and I'm also doing this actually as I'm describing it to you, so you can feel that physical tension and how it would be painful to be like that in this sort of state. And you might tense up every time your parent came into the room, meaning that your body is constantly in this state of tension, right? And cannot relax. And in addition, if you've developed a trauma response, you might start to do this in all kinds of situations that make you uncomfortable or remind you of that situation, where you start to feel the same fear, right? Ultimately, your body is tense and you're constantly carrying around the physical impact of this trauma. And this is the palpable pain. The second way I want to talk about is basically becoming physically numb and dissociating from your body and being distant. Now, this is kind of the opposite actually of the first reaction, but it is still a physical impact. Basically, if you were constantly experiencing this physical pain, the palpable element, it might reach a point where it really becomes too much to bear. You're constantly tense, you're too scared, you're always in this fight or flight, and then instead of continuing that, you basically just shut down, switch off, and start dissociating yourself from your body, distancing yourself, also your mind, which means you're shutting down all of the feelings. It's not just physical. And you might just go numb to the point where you don't feel anymore. You're not in touch or in tune with your body. Or another option is that you could just be in denial about the signs that you're getting from your body. So not so much shutting down, but I would say this is more dissociating. So you recognize that you're having tension, pain, problems, but you're just ignoring them and you just treat it as something physical and not recognizing that it's connected to your mind and what's happening mentally. If I think back to a time that I was stressed, like way more stressed in my life, I think I definitely felt the tension. And I saw the physical symptoms, but it was exactly that. I was ignoring it. I used to have a lot of stomach pain, heartburn. I used to be very physically tense. I used to be tired all the time. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I don't stretch enough, or, oh, I need to go to the spa. Or I remember thinking, maybe I just had food allergies. Actually, I remember that I took so many tests because I was tired all the time. Turns out, I was just sleep deprived because I was stressed as hell. But yeah, because I was disconnected from my body and I was not really making this connection between mind and body, I wasn't able to listen and connect the dots. What do I mean by that? I wasn't able to feel this pain in my stomach or sickness and sit there and think, okay, but what is happening, and recognize, oh, I'm nervous. Oh, it's because I'm going to see this person. Oh, it's because I'm going into this situation. Or, for example, now when I get angry or I start to talk about something that makes me annoyed, I start to raise my shoulders and I notice it. I can now notice this physical reaction in my body and relax. But in the past, I wasn't able to notice this at all. And that's why I only saw this as a physical symptom. So basically what I'm saying is that when you're numb or when you're dissociated, when you're kind of, in denial maybe, or repressing your feelings, this is what can happen. You can just ignore the signs. And more extremely, you may just stop feeling altogether. I do know that this happens, that you end up being numb completely, emotionally, physically. It's not uncommon. Basically, you're just blacking out the pain as if it wasn't there, which is perhaps not the healthiest coping mechanism, but one that I can definitely understand because you would rather just not have to go through this pain. The third way I want to talk about the manifestation of this pain in your body, the manifestation of the trauma in your body, is through chronic illness. This is such an important one. It's under-researched, I would say. Gabor Maté is really one of the main people speaking out on this topic. So again, highly recommend reading him. And I would really recommend looking into this online. I should say, and this is very important, that chronic illness and especially chronic pain generally affects more women than men, generally speaking. And it's not a surprise if you read Gabor Maté, if you listen to him and some other people, because as women, we tend to carry a lot of responsibility, a lot of tension, we do a lot of emotional labor, we have a lot of unresolved issues and trauma that we're carrying, in addition to all of the, mental load of day-to-day life. This is why chronic illness tends to manifest more in women. But okay, I'm going a little bit on a tangent here, so I want to come back to this manifestation of trauma in your body as chronic illness. As I've said before, and just repeating it again, the mind and body are intrinsically linked. By now, you know this. I've talked about how when people experience extreme burnout, their body just shuts down completely. They cannot get out of bed. This is the body's way of sounding the alarm system and just saying no more. So to come back to this physical manifestation of trauma, in a way, if you think about it, it seems logical that if you've been through a lot of traumatic events that are too difficult for you to process, that you've been repressing, or that you've been ignoring, or that you've been working so hard to act like everything is fine, whether that's for yourself or for the people around you, whether you're putting on this image, it makes sense that in the end this is gonna manifest itself one way or the other in your body. It can be very difficult to process the trauma, right? What happened to you, and let alone deal with the emotions that come with that, the overwhelming thoughts, the fear, the grief, the guilt. It's a lot, especially if you don't have professional help, or if you don't have the time or the space to process that. And like I said, we're sometimes repressing it, whether on purpose or not. But our body remembers everything. It remembers everything. Chronic illness, in this particular case, is your body's way of shouting out and telling you that something is wrong. It's your body's way of coping with something that you're not processing mentally. Please, if this is your case, if you're experiencing any kind of chronic illness or any kind of extreme physical reaction at a moment in time in your life where looking back you think, oh, I was going through a really hard time, please look into it. Please do not ignore the signs. Read the literature. I would say perhaps not talk to a doctor, because they are not always trauma informed. Try and find a professional that knows about this, that can give you more information. Try to talk to a psychiatrist and mental health specialist who can help you on this topic. Really do not ignore the signs that your body is giving, and when you feel ready, really try to look at this. You might also want to journal it for yourself. You might also just want to go back and process this. There's a lot that can be said about somatic healing and somatic therapy. I would really recommend looking into that as well. But please do not ignore the signs your body is sending you. I cannot emphasize this enough. I know it's hard. I know it's really hard to look into and face traumatic events. Take it one step at a time. I think, for me, the first step would really just be asking myself, could this be the physical manifestation of something mental? And you don't have to do it alone. You can also, without healthcare professionals, talk to a friend, talk to someone close to you that you trust, and kind of look at it. So that's it. I hope this can help. I hope this has shed a little bit more light for you on the connection between mind and body and the impact of trauma. This is very short and simplified. I'm not a licensed therapist, like I've said before. As usual, my goal is just to make information accessible and break it down for you. If you're interested in diving more into this topic, then please read more books, sign up for courses, watch more YouTube videos, talk to your therapist, talk to your friends, and of course, go to therapy if this is accessible and available to you. Do not hesitate to do that. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to don't forget to subscribe, even if there's only a video once a year, but you will get notified when it gets published. See you soon.